So, let's talk about two of the most influential people in all of history. One, a Roman emperor. The other, a Judean preacher. And somehow, they ended up sharing the exact same world-changing title. How on earth did that happen? Well, let's dial in.
Right out of the gate, our source material just drops this bombshell. Caesar and Jesus. Both called Savior, both called Son of God. I mean, think about that for a second. You've got the guy running the entire known world, and then you have a preacher from Galilee with a message that his kingdom was somewhere else entirely. And yet, they had these identical divine titles.
And that's really the big question we're unpacking here. What's going on? Was this just some bizarre coincidence? Was it a deliberate challenge? Or, does the answer tell us something much, much deeper about power and religion in the ancient world? Let's dig in and find out.
Okay, first stop, Rome. We've got to understand that before Son of God was this huge religious statement, it was actually a really clever tool of Roman imperial politics. This had less to do with faith and everything to do with power.
Imagine this. Everywhere you go, on every coin that passes through your hands to buy bread or wine, you see the emperor's face and these words, Divi Filius. The source says it was basically like having it on every billboard across the entire Mediterranean world. It was a constant, inescapable reminder, Augustus is the son of a god.
So how did he pull this off? Well, it all goes back to his adoptive father, the famous Julius Caesar. I mean, his whole career was just a masterclass in grabbing power. He starts out with religious authority as a high priest, then he gets military might as a general, and then, after he dies, the Senate makes it official. They declare him Divus Julius, the divine Julius, and that political act is what let his heir, Augustus, claim he had a divine dad.
So Divi Filius literally means son of the divine one. And this wasn't some vague spiritual idea. No, this was a specific, legal, and very political title that Augustus used to cement his rule. He was basically saying, my father was a god, which makes me the rightful heir to all this power.
But look, a title isn't enough to keep you in power. So how did he do it? The source points to this massive system of social welfare. He'd take the loot from his wars and hand it out as bounties and benefits, even giving out free bread from the state-run temples. This wasn't just him being a nice guy, though. It was a strategy, a way to buy loyalty and make the public completely dependent on him.
And if that wasn't enough, get this. The emperor had the power of apotheosis. This meant he had the state-given authority to decide who gets to become a god. So by being the guy who could make his father a god, he was essentially putting himself on the level of a god himself. Talk about the ultimate power move.
Okay, now let's shift gears, because on the complete other side of the empire, this totally different figure shows up, and he's about to take that very same title, Son of God, and turn it completely on its head. His followers even called him another king.
Just look at this number, 46. According to the source material, the title, Son of God, shows up 46 times in the New Testament. That's not just some throwaway line. No, this was absolutely essential to who Jesus was and what his message was all about.
And think about who was saying it. It comes from everywhere in the story. You have the angel Gabriel, his closest follower Peter, even his enemies like the high priest, and maybe the most shocking one of all, the source points out, is a Roman centurion, a soldier of Caesar, who says it at the foot of the cross.
This title became so central that the early believers actually hid it in plain sight, inside their famous secret symbol. You know the fish symbol? Well, the Greek word for fish is ichthys, and it was an acronym that stood for Jesus Christ, Son of God, Savior. Right there, baked into their code, are the two titles he shared with Caesar.
So now we've got the stage set. You have these two major figures, both being called Son of God. And the source argues that this created a massive collision. But it wasn't just about two men. It was a clash between two totally different ideas about how society should even work.
And to really get a handle on this, the source uses this amazing metaphor. On one side, you've got the eagle, the symbol of Rome, of military conquest and raw state power. And on the other side, you have the dove, representing the message of Christ. It's such a clear way to see these two opposing forces. So let's break down what those two systems actually looked like. The source calls Caesar's system public religion. It's top-down, it's funded by taxes and taking spoils from war, and it's all designed to make people dependent on the state. But then you have what's called pure religion. This system is built on free will, on charity. It's distributed through voluntary groups, and its goal is to create individual liberty.
Now, here's the really crucial part. You'd think the early Christians would be like, hey, free bread, what's not to love? But they didn't see it that way at all. The source explains that they saw the tables of the state with all its benefits as a snare and a trap. They believed it was a system that bought your soul, your allegiance to a man-made God, and trapped you in dependency.
So all of this really boils down to one fundamental question. What should society be built on? Is it force and fear, or is it faith and freedom? This is the battle that was hiding inside that one shared title.
And here it is, laid out as clearly as possible. The Roman model, Caesar's way, was built on force, fear, and fealty, loyalty to the state. The Christian model, Christ's way, was built on faith, hope, and charity, these voluntary principles. Just two completely different blueprints for the world.
So, in the end, the fight over the title Son of God wasn't just some theological squabble. No, it was a head-on collision between two worldviews. It was about two completely different answers to the question of how we should live together, how we should organize our governments and our societies, one centered on the power of the state and the other on the power of the individual and community.
And that brings us right to the present day. The source presents these two models, state power versus voluntary community, as this timeless conflict. And the question it leaves us with is a big one. Where do we see the echoes of the eagle and the dove playing out in our world right now? Because in a lot of ways, that tension is still shaping everything. Thanks for watching.